We have, now the weather is getting better, so now on the Shabbat, there might be a desire that youngsters or even adults might have to play basketball on Shabbat. So the question is, why would basketball on Shabbat be permitted or not allowed? So Maran writes, Siman Shin Het, Sif Mem He. It says on Shabbat Yom Tov, a ball is muktzeh. Says Shulchan Aruch, therefore it is forbidden to handle a ball on the Shabbat. There is a little bit of discussion. Maybe the times of the Chazal, when their balls were made out of rags, they were made out of inexpensive materials, that would be considered muktzeh, plus they get very dirty, and therefore that would be considered why it has no use on the Shabbat, and it would be considered muktzeh. However, today, where you can buy a professionally made ball, and they're very nice looking, they're very well kept, people don't leave them outside, people take care of it, there's room to say, some Harnim say maybe it'll lose its status of muktzeh. Nonetheless, Chazon Ovadia is mahmir on that, and he says that you should treat it like muktzeh. Besides from the muktzeh issue, Rabbi Yosef, who in this siman, quotes the Yerushalmi Mesechtanit says that there was a city called Tur Shimon that the adults used to play ball on Shabbat. And the Gemara says that that city was destroyed, eventually everyone died, and that city wasn't inhabited due to the fact that there was Zilzul Shabbat. It was disrespectful to the Shabbat to use the time of Shabbat like that for the sake of ball playing. So therefore, since the Yerushalmi also tells us that Shabbat and Yom Tov was given to the Jewish people in order that they should not be busy with work, rather they should have free time to learn and to connect with their families, to do the mitzvot. So therefore, since they're misusing the time for Shabbat, they got punished heavily and the whole city was destroyed. So therefore you see the Maran is telling us that ball playing is not something that should be done on the Shabbat regardless of the fact if it's muktzeh or non-muktzeh. Yes, the Ramah argues over here, and quotes the opinion of Tosafot, who says that the ball is not considered muktzeh, the Minhag Ashkenaz is to follow like Tosafot, but the ball is not muktzeh. Nevertheless, still it's not in the spirit of Shabbat, as the Ramban tells us in the Chumash. There are things that are not necessarily forbidden from the letter of the law, but they're still forbidden because it's not in the spirit of Shabbat. You can imagine somebody taking a osvo and turning on the TV from before Shabbat, so you can watch LeBron James, so you can watch the NBA on Shabbat while eating osvo. Because you turned it on before Shabbat. What melacha did I do, Rabbi? I didn't do anything. I turned it on from before Shabbat. So the person will tell you, that's not what the Shabbat is for. That's not the point of Shabbat. You made like Saturday into Sunday. You made Shabbat into Sunday by using permitted loopholes. That's not the point. The point of Shabbat is to feel that it's Shabbat, to feel it dedicated to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that day. You feel different than the weekday. So therefore, once a person starts taking the Sunday activities and bringing them to the Shabbat, very easily a lot of times when it gets hot, people want to swim, people want to go to pools on Shabbat. Again, this is another situation where you're taking Sunday activities and you're bringing them to Shabbat. You're making Shabbat an extra Sunday, another day where you do very, very fun activities and you forget really that it's a day for your neshama. It's a day for a person to connect more. Why do we get neshama yitara? Why do we get a double portion of neshama? To go and enjoy more physicality? In one sense, you have to eat a little bit more. In one sense, you do sleep a little bit more, but that's not the point. The point is, in order to go connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu on a higher level. So definitely, the Shabbat is not a time for it to be playing basketball, and definitely the Shabbat is not a time to go swimming in the pool and spend the whole afternoon over there. And a person who has the ability to tell somebody else, you see somebody in your family, you see your cousin, you see your brother, you see your friend in shul, you tell them, listen, Shakam, let's go do something else on Shabbat. Let's not go play basketball. Let's not go swim in the pool. Let's go find something else. People say, what are you supposed to do the whole Shabbat? I'm supposed to be bored the whole Shabbat? What am I supposed to do? First, I tell them stuff. You have to plan in advance. You have to look. There's other things. The person will tell me, Rabbi, there's no good kosher restaurant. So I have to go telefoy because there's no good kosher restaurants. What should I do? So that's a logic that makes sense. No, it doesn't make sense. Go find good kosher things to do. If you didn't find, so you lost because you didn't do research. Do research. Go look it up in advance. It does not be permitted just because you're going to be bored to go and do all these forbidden things. So therefore, a person has to stand up for the sanctity of Shabbat and to make sure these things are not done in our midst, because it could be on also us, our sin as well, by us being able to rebuke and we didn't say anything. Rather, we must say something. There's a wonderful story of Shlomo Zalman Auerbach alav hashalom, where he was asked to potentially be the Rosh Yeshiva Kol Torah. So they were looking for a new Yeshiva, and they invited him, and they go and they're speaking to him. And then in the learning, they're speaking to him, and they ask him a question, a Gemara, and he was thinking about it, and he said, you know what, I'm not sure, I don't know the answer to that question. So they continued the conversation, and then the conversation, he went home. The Rebbetzin asked the Shlomo Auerbach, how did the meeting go? He says, I don't think they're going to make me a Rosh Yeshiva Kol Torah, Yeshiva Kol Torah. I said, I don't know, to one of the big questions they asked me. And then the next day, they came knocking on his door, and they said, they want you to be the Rosh Yeshiva. And he said, why is that? I said, I didn't know in the interview. And he says, we saw that you didn't make excuses, you didn't try to avoid the question, you were emet. You said, I don't know. We saw this, we said this is what the each students need, each emet. So therefore, that's exactly why you became the Rosh Yeshiva. So a person has to learn, and this Rosh Chodesh, and this Shabbat, B'ezrat Hashem, we should give ourselves and our families the idea, and push the beautiful idea of always saying the truth, and from the truth, you never